this episode of the Success Grade podcast with your host Hussein Talib. In this episode, I have with me Tai Goodwin to talk about how to generate qualified leads every single month for your business. And I know this is something very important for all type of businesses. We always worry where we are going to get constant leads every month and convert those leads into clients and have some kind of a good relationship with them. So Tai is an award-winning instructional designer, author, speaker, and marketing strategist. CEO of the marketing team. She is the former teacher turned entrepreneur with over 20 years of experience marketing online. So Tai, welcome to this episode with me on the Success Grid podcast.
I am so excited to be here.
Awesome to have you here. Because this is the Success Grid podcast, I first want to know what does success means to you and what do you see other people around you assume or have some certain misconception around success?
That's a great question. For me, success means being able to live the way I want to live. I think, and it took me a long time to get there. When I was younger, success was like money and titles. And I think that's one of the misconceptions people have is that if they reach a certain milestone financially, if they get a certain title, then that will be success. And what I found was that when I had the title, when I had the money, when I had the house and I had the car, I had all the things, I didn't really truly feel successful until I got into a space where I could say how I wanted to live my life. And that's where I am now. I live my life the way I want to, and that means success for me.
That's awesome. That to live life that how you want to live, not some other people want you to live it. That's very important. So
Yeah.
now you are a former teacher, which is a very honorable, good job in general, regardless of the pay. I don't want to talk about that side. But what happened into your life that you wanted to change to go from a teacher to entrepreneur? Can you give us an overview of your story?
Mhm. Well, yeah. So I didn't start off wanting to be an entrepreneur. I left teaching because I did not like being trapped in a classroom. And I didn't want to be a part of that system, like the system where I saw how they were not really educating children, not really giving them the support they needed to be successful. I didn't want to be a part of that. And, one of the funny things is I really wanted to be able to go to the bathroom when I wanted to. Like the classroom teacher, you're kind of stuck in the room and you really, like, you can't take lunch when you want to. There's just so many different things I didn't like about that, on that note. And so I left teaching to go into corporate training. And I was in corporate training for a number of years. And then my daughter was born. And she was the reason I started a business because I wanted to be home and have more time with my daughter. And so I decided I was going to pursue entrepreneurship to have more freedom.
Definitely. So now you are an entrepreneur. Do you think entrepreneurship is freedom, or do you think that sometimes, as they say, it is more work than people think it is?
Well, I think if people think that freedom means that you don't work, right? And I see people that say that all the time, like what is that, the 4-hour work week? And I said, I would hate that. Like, I love what I do. If I only got to do this work for 4 hours a week, I would not like my life. And so I think when people choose work that they don't like to do, of course, not having to work is going to be freedom for them. But freedom for me is that I get to work with the people that I really like, people that I respect, and I get to do work that I really like. So to me, that is freedom.
Mm. So now talking about our main subject, which is lead generation for business. This is something or a question that every business have, whether it's an online business or offline business. They always asking how I can get more people or more leads. So from my understanding or what I actually know, as regards to traffic, there are a lot of traffic, whether it's search engine traffic, social media traffic. So traffic is actually there. It's not like the lack of traffic. But the issue is to get these people into your place, into your website, into your funnel, into whatever it is that you want to have these leads in, right? So when you started your business or you started getting leads into your own business, what are the
Mhm.
things that you started doing? And we'll talk later on how you developed your own system into getting better at this.
Well, when I left my last day job, which is about 7 years ago, I went back to an old email list that I had. I hadn't talked to the people on that email list in about 2.5 years.
Mm,
And I knew I needed leads, right? And so I actually just sent those people a quiz and got them on my email list. And then I worked that email list to build my business. So when you're trying to start a business, the first thing that you really want to do is you want to take a look around at who do you already know. And that's called a warm audience. And even if you don't think the people that you immediately know are going to be a good fit for your services or your products, they might know somebody else. So start with the people that you know that are already in your space and do your lead generation from there. And then you start to focus on, okay, I need new people. I need people who don't know me. And that's when you get into cold traffic, strategies like SEO or paid traffic, or even leveraging other people's audiences like we're doing right now on the podcast.
Mm. That's very important to start from what you can have or what you have, to be resourceful in the beginning, right? Because at the
Yep.
beginning, generally speaking, we don't have much in general, but it is important to be resourceful. So now you talked about quizzes. Do you think having or generating leads through quizzes is the best way around? Because generally speaking, when someone is trying to attract a lead, we would have, as you know, like some kind of a squeeze page or a landing page. Get this free
Mhm.
PDF, they get this free course, or get this whatever free it is. But a quiz is a different aspect. So, from your experience now, is a quiz the ultimate or best solution for businesses to try if they haven't yet?
I think quizzes are, because number one, anybody can get a PDF download from anywhere. They can get that from Chat GPT, right? It'll give them the PDF content. But what a quiz does is it actually gives them insight based on specific questions. So now, there's a benefit not just to your end user, but there's a benefit to you as an entrepreneur as well. So think about this. If you just gave somebody a webinar or video or a PDF download, the only things that you're going to get back from them is a name and email address. You don't know anything else about them. So now, how do you personalize your marketing? How do you do any of that stuff? And you really can't. And so the beautiful thing about a quiz is that a quiz allows you to actually get more data. You're going to get more insight and information that you did not have before. So instead of just a name and email address, now you've got 5 questions or 6 questions that give you background data that you can now use to personalize your messages and segment your audience, which are key things in marketing.
Mm. Awesome. So that's very important, like which is very important point that we actually sometimes neglect, like sending someone to a certain page. People who are really interested and know what they might expect in that would sign up and get the free thing, whatever it is. But as far as the quiz, you get more details. Like I've seen this, like have you started your business or you are into 5 years run? The second question, third, four, five, six or to 10 questions maybe or more, some details for you as an entrepreneur to know where these people or leads are coming from, where are they exactly, what are they are looking for, so you can have a better messaging for them in the future, right? So this is like a very important insights a lot of us are actually might be neglecting.
Absolutely. Because one of the things with email marketing, and email marketing is huge, right? There are people say email marketing is dead, and it's not. It's still the number one way that small businesses and online businesses generate sales from new people or how they get more sales from their existing audience. And so you definitely want to have an email list. And the thing about your email list in order to make it work is that you can't send everybody the same email. So in the example that you just gave, if you've got business owners who are, have been in a business for 5 years, you're not going to talk to them the same way as somebody who's just getting started. They have different needs, they have different language, they have different, problems. And if you start talking to them all the same way, you're going to lose people instead of really building a relationship to get them, to see the value in what you do.
Definitely. So now, can you give us some kind of a framework? Like, how do you work with leads? Like, how do you structure things? What type of questions do you start with? Like, beginning, middle, end? Is there some kind of a perfect, let's say, or ideal structure for a quiz to be as useful and helpful as possible for both sides, as for the entrepreneur and the lead?
Well, I can give you some basic principles around it, but I can't give you all the secrets to say. But one of the basic things that I tell people all the time is do not start with your questions first. And people will say, I want to build a quiz and I know all the questions I'm going to ask. Well, how do you know what questions you're going to ask? You don't even know what the outcomes of your quiz are going to be. And when people do that, they make a big mistake. So don't just put a whole bunch of survey questions in there. Like, you're asking us like survey questions like, well, how old are you? And, how many husbands do you have? And, like, I know all that information already, right? I don't need that to tell you that, right? You do have demographic questions, but you're not going to build your whole quiz based on things that they already know about themselves. So we focused on making sure our questions are behavior based, and they've got to do a few things. Number one, they've got to help identify who your audience is. Right. So like an example, the question you gave, how long have you been in business? Right. Are you a newbie or are you somebody who's been in it for 5 years? That's an identification question. And then you want to have a question that actually kind of helps validate what the problem is. Right. Like, so one of our questions, like we've got a quiz right now about, what's your messaging superpower? And one of the questions we ask is about, when you write your content, what are you most concerned about? And we're asking that kind of question to validate what the person's problem is, right? Because if you said I'm most concerned about I don't have time to write content, well, now we know it's a productivity issue. If somebody says, well, my biggest concern is I don't know what to say, well, now we're going to talk to you about our messaging offer that we have. If the person says, well, I don't even know who I'm talking to, we can't start with messaging. We got to help you figure out who your ideal audience is. So we're validating what the problem is, right? And, so those are two different types of questions that you want to have in there. You want to identify, you want to validate. You also want to make sure that you're able to segment people as well. And so segmentation questions, they're going to be a little bit more demographic, and that might be age. And so, for example, we don't always come out and ask people how old they are. Like we've got e-commerce clients. And, one of the ways for one of our clients, we ask them, what music group did you listen to growing up? Right. So we could tell, like, are you a K-pop generation, or are you like the Temptations, or are you like the Beach Boys? Like, we're playing with it a little bit fun to kind of to segment our audience so we know what age group they're in, but you want to also have questions that segment your audience. So identify what their challenges and who they are, segment them, and validate what the problems are. Those are just some of the frameworks for the questions. And it doesn't matter if you put them all in the front or all in the back. That's not what's important. What's more important is that you make sure the questions that you're asking are actually going to help you develop the outcomes, get to the answers that will give your audience feedback.
I like that the use of, for example, what type of band or type of music you listen to, because it could give an estimate, for example, about the age if it to
Exactly.
us directly about the age, and it could
Uh-huh.
be more fun, like someone who might see that this question is funny, it's fun, so I would like to answer it. So, yeah, it's cool. So instead of
Exactly.
like what's your age, or exactly what's your age, or what's your age bracket, so that's
Uh-huh.
that's very, it would be a funny quiz. Like the purpose, I also think, from quizzes is for them to be like some a little bit of like not funny, or some kind of entertainment for the people who are using that or filling that, right? So this is an important element of quizzes, I assume.
Well, it can be. It really depends on your brand, because we build quizzes for corporate clients, clients that are more B2B, and they may not be looking to do a fun quiz, but we do want to make it engaging.
Mm.
Right. And we want to make it thought provoking, which is why we don't ask questions like, do you sleep? Did you have a good night's sleep? Yes or no? No, we're not going to ask yes or no questions, right? We're going to ask behavior based questions. And I'll give you an example of this. We had a client who, she was using her quiz to reach out to her audience who were people that needed help with writing grants or getting grants for their business. And one of the questions she asked was, do you have a team to help you if you got funding? Now, everybody's going to say, yes, I have a team, right? Because they're not going to, but so you can't ask that yes or no question. So we changed the question to say instead, if you got funding, who would do the work? Would you be doing the work, which means you don't have a team? Would you hire a team to do the work, which means you're going to be outsourcing, or do you have a staff of people? So now, see how that question just segmented and identified who they were?
Mm.
Because if you've got a team of people, we're going to talk to you differently than if you're a solopreneur, because a solopreneur, you're not going to have resources. So that means you may want to hire us to do all the stuff that you don't have the team for. Right. So that's one of the ways that we make our questions behavior based instead of these yes or no questions, which is like a big mistake because everybody's going to yes or no. I got two options. I'm going to make up something. Right. And you're not really going to get good data from that.
Yeah, it intrigues people to answer because yes, no questions or one, two, three questions generally I think would be fast to answer, but you want people maybe to actually, like you mentioned, be engaged in what they are doing, which is very important from the get-go.
Yeah.
If they are engaged in the quiz that they are doing, it would be a good relationship, I assume, going forward, which is like what we all hopefully want, right? So this is very important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now, in regards to maybe the questions, do you think there are a certain amount of question or a maximum amount of questions, or like I have seen personally, there are quizzes like 30, 40 questions, or is it
I think
specific
that's
about
way
the
too
business?
much. Yeah, well, I think it's more specific to when you're using the quiz. You don't have to just use a quiz to generate leads. You can use a quiz after people become clients as assessments, as scorecards, and that's different than if you're using it to generate leads. Lead generation quizzes, you want to keep the questions between 7 to 12 questions. 12 is a lot, right? But you want to keep it low because here's the thing, most people are going to take the quiz on their phone. And nobody's trying to sit on their phone for 40 questions. Like they're not trying to scroll for 40 questions to get those answers. So you want to make it short and sweet. 7 to 12 questions. 10 is ideal, right? But you want to keep it short and sweet.
Cool. So I also assume that it's telling people like you have 10 questions to answer is better having them in the blank, not telling them how many questions they are going to answer. Do you think that's an important element of the quiz or not?
I don't think so. I think if you have an engaging enough question, like an engaging enough hook, and your questions are engaging, people are going to answer the questions.
Definitely, that's cool. Especially if they are shocked after the 10 question. Please, for example, fill out your name and address or whatever it is, the action CTA after that. You need them to be engaged for a while, but not too long, as we're talking about for 30, 40 questions, which is, I assume, generally also too much. You need to get some kind of maybe the fundamentals, basic and understanding of the people who are getting in to your email list. Also, that comes to
Yeah.
the question of the traffic sources. Like generally, the traffic sources that, for example, that we use all, as we talked about, there are search engines, there are social media now, and paid ads, of course. So are all of these thing things the same thing, or should we focus on a different, or sorry, on a specific, let's say, social media platform? For example, Facebook, not Instagram? Or should we have, if we know our clients or our customers, where are they coming from? Should we give them another type of, let's say, quiz for a different platform? Do you think that's irrelevant or
Yeah. No,
irrelevant?
I don't. Yeah, I don't think that's a great question. I don't think you need a different quiz for a different platform. The platforms and the way you drive traffic to your quiz is going to be based on where your audience is. If your audience is on LinkedIn, don't advertise your quiz on Facebook. If your audience is getting there, if they're going on Google or YouTube to search, don't do Facebook ads, right? You really want to go to where your audience is. So the lead magnet itself isn't what drives what your traffic strategy is. What drives your traffic strategy is where your clients are.
Yeah. So do you think that there is something important that we missed talking about here about using quizzes for lead generation you can add here?
Yeah, I do. And this is just for any lead magnet, period. You have to give the lead magnet a significant amount of time. Like I see people, they'll create like a PDF and then they'll put it out for 10 days and, oh, well, it's not getting traction, so it's not working. You did it for 10 days. That's not enough time. And people do the same thing with quizzes. They'll invest the time and money to have a quiz done. That's one of the things we do. We build quizzes for our clients, or they'll build it themselves, which is still an investment of time. And then they'll put like 4 post about it and say, well, nobody's taking my quiz. You have to give any lead generation strategy at least 90 days,
Mm,
at least 90 days to see what the results are. And so you have to give it enough time and you have to drive traffic to it. Like if you say, well, I had my quiz out there for 90 days. And I say, well, what did you do to drive traffic to it? Well, nothing. I just told my email list that there was a quiz. No, you have to be diligent and consistent in driving traffic to it. Do it for 90 days. And then you can come back and you can reassess, right? And then fix what's not working, optimize what is working. And then you do it for another 90 days.
mm. Of course, we need some type of not long or too short time frame to assess the efforts that we are doing. Like a week is not sufficient because, like in general in business, it's a fast-paced world. Social media very fast. Post on Twitter doesn't last like an hour, for example, on Facebook 24 hours. So you need to be consistent for a certain or a period amount of time to see the type of result that you might be seeing. So what do you think,
Exactly.
or what are some of the worst advices that you have ever received?
For quizzes or just in general?
Both, if you can do that.
Yeah, so the worst advice I've seen for quizzes is just use our template. And I've seen people use these really bad templates for quizzes and then they're wondering why it doesn't work. So don't use a really bad template. That's one of the worst things that you can do. Not driving traffic is another big mistake that people make. And I think one of the biggest mistakes, especially for new entrepreneurs, is they really don't know and do the work to figure out who their audience is. You have to really get detailed. For example, I've worked with a lot of health coaches, and I had a health coach and she said, "Well, I want to help women lose weight." And I'm like, "Which woman do you know that does not want to lose some weight?" So now you're talking to all the women that want to lose weight, and she's like, "Well, yeah, that's why I chose it because there's so many people." And I said, but listen, the way you talk to a brand new mom about losing weight is different than the way you talk to a woman who's over 50, empty nester, who's got more discretionary income and more time than a brand new mom who doesn't have time, who doesn't have discretionary income. You cannot talk to those same women the same way about losing weight.
Mm,
So if you don't really get clear about who your audience is, so you can personalize the message and you can make the message and the context fit their specific situation, your marketing is going to give you really, really bad results. And people will say, well, I'm bad at marketing. It's like, no, you're not bad at marketing. You just don't have a good marketing strategy.
mm. That's very important. The messaging is very important. So, do you have some type of resources, tools, or books that you would generally recommend to people?
Um, oh gosh, I usually keep a list of books. One of the books that has changed things, a lot of the books that have changed things for me right now are all about mindset and how we think about like wealth and abundance, right? And I recommend those for people that are starting off in the beginning because you can work so many hours, but if you really don't shift how you think about making money, if you really don't shift how you think about having money in your business, you're going to work yourself into a dead end, like a dead end business, just like you had a dead end job. Right. And so what we really want to make sure that you're doing is, changing your mindset, making sure you're thinking the right way. Another book that I would recommend is, I'm seeing it's right on the tip of my tongue. I can't, I'm looking over here at my stack of books to see if I can find it. Cannot find it. I see it. I can't remember the name of it. It's going to drive me crazy. I'll text it to you if I remember it. But it's about starting and not overthinking things, right? It's about failing fast, like getting in there and doing it and stop overthink. That's what it is. Ready, fire, aim. Ready, Fire, Aim is the name of the book. And, he talks about like not waiting and waiting and waiting to think you have all the things right to get things done. Sometimes you have to fire first and then use that information to actually now go back and correct the aim. And that was really helpful, especially when a lot of people are new and we're trying to overthink things because we think, especially if you're just coming from a corporate space, we think that everything has to be perfect because when we were in a corporate job, you didn't present anything unless it was perfect. And you cannot wait for things to be perfect in entrepreneurship. So you have to get it out there, fail fast, get the data, then make the changes. And that's the best way for you to learn. That's the best way for you to get feedback from your audience and really make something that's going to have an impact and help you build your business.
Definitely, in business, you have to take action. So, because by action we will learn. Like, if we don't take action, we won't know what's gonna work, what's not gonna work. Having quizzes, like we talked about the 90 days, if someone uses that or test it for 90 days and in some way doesn't work, of course, you can change the orders of questions, you can add more questions, remove more questions, test things, new things, and test it for another 90 days or so. Because if we don't take action, we wouldn't know the results. So this is very important in general in life, in business and life, to actually take action, because nothing beats action. Yeah. So Tai, where can people learn more about you and get in touch with you?
Yeah, well, I love social media, so you can always find me on Facebook and Instagram at Tai Goodwin. And then if you go to quizandgrowrich.com, you can find information there. Like we've got 151 quiz ideas for people that are thinking about using quizzes. And we've got a number of other resources that they can find at quizandgrowrich.com.
Awesome, awesome. So this is an amazing resource, I think, that would give a lot of free ideas and inspiration for people to start making their quizzes. Okay, awesome. Thank you very much, Ty, for joining me for this episode of the Success Secret podcast. Very lovely to have you here, and you provide us with a great conversation and insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you.